Hello and welcome. It is party time. That's right. Why? Because it's a Wednesday. Who parties on a Wednesday? Nobody. But it's pretend youth like me want to make sure we're excited about what is called hashtag Hump Day. That's right. Right in the middle of the week. And we've got a really big. It is Wednesday today, right? It is. Just checking. Because with these games, you just never know what day it is anymore. But it's match day for Gujarat and Hyderabad. And why I'm so excited is because they are both table toppers. Right. So, the good students, they're right up there, the guys who raise their hand in every class and answer every question. So two of them playing. Naturally, we're all very excited. You may be asking, what is Gaurav Kapur doing here on Cricbuzz Live? Is there's two front benchers playing because I'm the proverbial backbencher, which is why I've got two good students here with me. Yes, there is no table here that they can top, but they are connected to Table Mountain loosely. It's around them. Currently also for Shaun Pollock, well, a few hundred miles away, perhaps, Shaun, Table Mountain?
Yeah, it is. It's far away from me, but my daughter's down that way. And it's funny that you mentioned it with the students and no partying on Wednesday. They do at Stellenbosch. They call it Little Saturday. And they go out every Wednesday night for a party. So Wednesday night and Saturday night is the party night. Wednesday is called Little Saturday. So they do party somewhere in the world, South Africa, Stellenbosch.
I love it because, for youngsters these days, one weekend a week is just too little. I mean, what do we expect from them? Come on, it's just too little. Got to give them at least two. And but Pommie, when you've got cricket going on and cricket of this level and this standard and this excitement going on, every night is party night. It's Little Saturday every day.
I knew you were going to go there. I was going to say every day is the weekend,
Yeah.
Every day is game day. And the double weekend that Polly's talking about is during the weekend because you get double games. So, hey, look. We're having a ball.
That's right. We've got Little Saturday happening today, and there's two teams for whom it's been, it's been Little Saturday party time, essentially. If you look at the points table, you'll see we're talking about two teams that are right up top. This is not something that you would have said a few weeks ago. In fact, Hyderabad, after the auction, copped a lot of flack, Polly, because they didn't I don't even think they had their paddle with them in the first hour of the auction. So obviously they copped a lot of flack. But look what they did towards the end. They built up their bowling like they've done back to 2016. They're fast bowlers. And you must be happy because that's a good fast bowling stable with one of your boys, Marco Jansen, in there doing really well.
Yeah, he had a great game in the last one, didn't he? I mean, their positive net run rate is brilliant just from that performance. And you touch on that. I suppose anyone, when you leave Rashid Khan out of any team or you don't hold on to him, people are going to start ask questions. But I suppose in 2016, they won without him. And it's very much a similar formula. The four fast bowlers are doing a fantastic job and really dominating terms, even better than they did in 2016 when they went on to win. And the spinners are playing more of a role. I mean, that was probably the reason, if you look at that spin average, as to why they got Rashid in after that, to try and bulk up that performance. But they seem to be covering the bases. And we've had whispers about a possible change in the team as well. So I think
there's some whispers, yes.
There's some whispers.
I'll get to that.
Might be on his way back, which is another good addition for them.
That is right. That is true. So with their pace bowling doing well, they of course have Natrajan, Bhuvi, and Umran, of course, with his 150s, and Marco Jansen. And now they've got Washington Sundar added on to that, Pommie. It ain't looking too shabby, I tell you that.
It's not looking too shabby at all, actually. And a side that's kind of quietly got themselves on the right path in terms of figuring out how they play. In terms of how they've played, as they've gone along, guys have got better and better as well. So I think the first part of the puzzle, which they did well to sort out pretty much straight away, was to get Williamson up to the top of the order, understanding that his temperament and the fact that he kind of holds it all together, and that's the way they tend to play their game. Kind of, if you ask them to bat first, you wouldn't expect that they would get to 200 or 220 and try and defend that. you still in their DNA, you would think they'd get 160, 170, and there'd be a team that would look to kind of defend that. And the way they'd get it is they'd be held quite nicely together. Williamson get them some sort of a start, bat quite a long way, and then the middle would come in and they'd be able to play some shots. Where they've had great success and probably great benefit is the fact that Markram, the guys in the middle actually, Markram, Puran, have managed to get some batting and have managed to get successful batting. That's why they as a team have been victorious. And in doing that, I think the experiences would have done them the world of good, because it's those middle positions that are quite difficult and will continue to get even more difficult as we go into the next part of the tournament, just because of the aging of pitches and spinners coming in a bit more, and even the seamers being more difficult to whack away.
Yeah, I think what it also does, it gives them some nice depth there in their batting. That with Suchith there, it was maybe just a bit iffy. Bobby, yes, he can play a role at the back end, and so can Marco Janssen. But now you add Sundar to it, and it just gives it a bit of extra more depth. You've got Bobby coming in at number 9 now, and that looks a better unit. As you say, Pom, the middle order has been good in getting over the line and their run chasers in particular. But I think they'll feel more comfortable having Washington. And do they promote him at some stage? We've seen that in the past.
He's open domestically, so that could happen as well. But, the big news today before the game is that there has been a devastating breakup. That's right. There's a breakup. Kane Williamson and the Coin have had a breakup. They're not together anymore.
Right,
Yeah. They broke it up.
Challenging. It'd be challenging for them.
He's lost the toss. What? And they're going to be batting first. Pommie, do you think that Kane would have looked around and go, what is that? What does that mean? What? We go first?
It has said we need to toss again.
A la World Cup final.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe I think it'd be nice for them to be tested. I think it's a good thing.
Good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, a nice time, because they're doing well. They'll kind of face the challenge positively, rather than a toss, we need to win, and the toss is important, and all of this. That said, the reason I also say it's a good time for them to be asked to bat first is because in the last 5 games or so, teams are winning the toss and bowling first, but it's the teams that are batting first that are winning. And so losing the toss is probably the right thing at this stage, because the teams that are batting first are winning. So they have an opportunity here to put runs on the board, and they could come out victorious in the end.
It has been for Rajasthan. For Rajasthan, a team that likes batting first, for them losing the toss is amazing, because that's the way you guarantee that you bat first, because no captain is choosing to bat first. We had faith today from the captain, because he's the only guy who's chosen to bat first. That's Hardik, but he did that in a day game, and today he's reverted to what is the most comfortable thing for all the teams. So it's just in thought, Polly. It's not in execution, because as Pommie just said, teams batting first are winning, but yet captains keep choosing to chase after winning the toss.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's just a trend maybe of T20 cricket. If guys are getting so accomplished at chasing that they feel comfortable getting into that kind of mindset. But I mean, the fact that there's just been one, what is it now? How many games are we? Nearly 40 games?
40,
and there's just one person who's decided. It's astonishing. I mean, you wouldn't have been able to bet on that, and you also wouldn't have been able to bet on Mumbai North from 8.
That is true. Yes, there's a lot of strange things that are happening. Absolutely. Let's have a look at Gujarat and look at their team and see, have they done anything strange at all? I don't think they should, because they are right up top, and well, they haven't. They've gone in with that 11. And Pommie, I'll just get you in, and both of you actually, I'll get Pommie in first on this. You look at the bowling attack of Hyderabad and you say, look at their seam bowling, look at their quick bowlers. That's great. It's so well-rounded. If there's any team that can match them and perhaps go a length ahead, it's these guys. Loki Ferguson, Mohammad Shami, world beaters. Alzari Joseph, upcoming young talent. Yash Dayal, upcoming young talent. That's looking good as well. And then you throw in the spin of Rashid Khan, all-round bowling attack. But let's just talk about the pace first.
Yeah, wonderful. And there's quite a bit of it around, not just in these two sides. So you look at these two sides, but you also look around the traps at all the other teams. And it's fantastic. I mean, I did the game yesterday, RCB and Rajasthan Royals, and there was good pace on show there as well. So all around the tournament, you get these guys who have turned up and have kind of complemented each other in terms of pace attacks. And then just if a wicket's quite quick, say with Gujarat bowling, if a wicket's quite quick, it's unrelenting. There's just pace all over the place, pace and bounce as well. And just when you think you're going to get away from the pace, the person who you've got to come up against is Rashid Khan. So that's no respite, you know. It's not as if you're going to get an easy get out. I think it's fabulous that these pace bowlers are around, and the batters, with some of the wickets being quite nice and bouncy as well. And even when they aren't, they're quite happy to use their bounce because they've got that extra pace. Yeah, it's testing some of them.
Shaun, is that going to be a tough choice for you if I say look at the quick bowlers on both sides? And let's not. Rashid Khan can be a bit of a tiebreaker, and Sundar will probably say that himself. But if you just look at the quicks on both sides, choosing one which is perhaps which you favor more than the other, would that be as difficult a question as saying you've got two kids and pick your favorite?
It would be. I think it is challenging. I think that obviously the surface is something you'll have to look at who it suits. But they're so far Hyderabad have been the better of the two. I suppose they've both got a left arm option. They've both got versatility. I suppose Gujarat, if you look at them, they've probably got a little bit more depth, because if someone has an iffy day, you've got Tavatia. I don't think we're going to see Pandya bowl in this match, but they've maybe just got that extra little option. But it is going to be it's going to be a good shootout. I mean, Shami, Ferguson, I've overlooked and been impressed by Dayal. I think he's pretty impressive about what he's brought to the equation. And Alzari Joseph, he held his nerve beautifully the other night, didn't he? Under the pressure of taking on a fellow countryman. Once that first six disappeared, it was KKR that were the favourites. So, I like the look of both teams. And as we talked about the other night, we had the 4 top Indian spinners in the one match against each other. This time around, we're going to have a real, as fast bowlers, me and Pommie are going to enjoy ourselves watching to see how these guys get on.
Yeah, I do want to talk about Yash Dayal in the previous match. You're bowling to, Russell. You managed to get him out, and how he managed to get him out was very impressive. That wasn't a freak dismissal. He literally kind of feraled the big man, didn't he, with that delivery? And then you're just, you're an inch over. Both of you talk to me about, go back to your early days and you get a big wicket like that. What is the impact that it has on you psychologically? I mean, they ended up on the winning side though, but what's the impact something like that can have of you, Pommie? And who do you want coming to talk to you at that time?
I'm just trying to think of if I ever bounced anyone out in a test match, and I don't think so. don't think so, Gaurav. It wasn't more of dismissals I was looking for. Didn't have the luxury of a fiery Shaun Pollock here of running up and bowling 145 clicks and people running out the way. So I had to rely on kind of bringing them forward and nicking them off, and you would be happy with that. Thank you very much. But I suppose I then would have to defer and say to Shaun as a youngster, what he might have felt sort of bumping and kind of being aggressive with guys when he was younger.
Yeah, I mean, I like the plan, particularly. I mean, there's certain individuals when they first walk to the crease, he's one of them. Obviously, Russell Pollard is another. If they get on the front foot or they get going, they're going to put you under immense pressure. So the use of the short pitch delivery to both of them in this tournament, I think, has been pretty good. I used to have a strategy that, if you weren't living on the edge, you were taking up too much space with my front foot. So I was always tacking the front foot as much as possible. But that free hit cured me. I decided to go. I went half and half from then on in. I actually remember we had a final in Lords. I think it was called the Benson Hedges Cup in those days. And I managed to get Nasser Hussain out in one of the first few deliveries. And Napier came to the crease. And in the first over, I was going hooping. Beautiful. Last delivery, play and miss, but Polly oversteps. Push, free hit. I disappeared into the top of the Lord's stand in the first over. So you learn your lesson very quickly. This free hit, totally overrated. You need to practice at all times, half and half. And you don't give anyone the opportunity of just being able to clear that front foot and swing without any damage.
We were just discussing this more, Paul. We were and yeah, it's important. And I know I say it wouldn't bounce anyone out, but it's important, even though you don't quite have the pace of the guys who are really fast, just to use it in the one-day game to ensure that I think someone's at my door. And, I'll get to them.
Dinner's arrived.
It's not dinner. I don't know who it is, but I think it's important to use the bumper just to be able to get people off the front foot, and so that things aren't predictable, particularly when guys are medium paces. So if you direct your bouncer correctly, it works well, because you then have a scenario where the guy's not actually entirely sure where he needs to be and where he's trying to look to score of you. We're discussing in the morning whether one bouncer is sufficient. Why isn't it two? In a limited overs game. Hang on a second.
Someone's really. I think it's Harsha. It's probably Harsha.
The thing is that, I used, obviously in the early days, it was all about the pacey bouncer. But by the back end of my career, it was the slow ball bouncer. So if I was in the coaching staff, Pom, I would have taught you how to bowl the slow ball bouncer. And you could have run in and just ripped your fingers across it and made the guy take it on. But yeah, I think the use of it, it's almost like you treat it as a test match. So when a guy walks the crease, for one delivery, we're going to put fine leg back, we're going to put square leg back, and we're going to say, okay, come on. If it wasn't a test match and you'd come to the crease, I'm going to bowl you that bump. I'm going to say, you take me on. If you get out, I've got my wicket for the test. It's the same in the T20 format. Every once in a while, you've got to set that field and say, okay, this is make or break. If you're going to go for it and you get it wrong, we've got ourselves a wicket.
Yeah, let's. I also want to talk to you, Shaun, about Markram, because he's been one of kind of the linchpins, right, for SRH. Well, linchpin's kind of the wrong word. More kind of the engine, right, the engine room, because Hyderabad's traditionally not done well when it comes to the middle overs, right? They don't average much in the middle overs. They run 20 in the last few seasons, 21, 22. One year they went up to 30. But with Rahul Tripathi, Nicholas Pooran and Markram, this year they're averaging 51 between overs 7 and 15. And that really, that doubles it and completely changes the game. He's been instrumental in that, hasn't he?
Yeah, me and Pommie obviously work here on the South African TV, and he got left out. That's where he was. He had a really rough spell. He didn't know where his next run was coming from. Technically, we always sit in the commentary box and discuss something about him and how steep he picks the bat up and almost chops across it. He's made a slight technical change. He's flattened that out. He's softened how far he takes the bat back. He was very similar in the test series when India were here. We did a comparison with him and Mayank Agarwal, who also picks it up very steep. It's just your consistency can't be as good as if you're coming down steep in the delivery of your bat. So he softened that just a touch, and it seems to be working with him. And I think one of the key people in instrumental in that would have been Kane Williamson, because he's very good at playing those soft hands. I've often seen him talk about how he looks to hit on top of the ball. So when you do that, you end up looking to play the ball as late as possible. And that tends to be what Markram's focused on, and it's working really well for him. And as you say, in the middle overs there, with the tail that they've had at times without Sundar playing, it's been vital that those guys have done the role. And they have indeed. Yeah. So that's definitely contributed to their success.
Yeah, got some remarkable maturity, Pommie, out of Nicholas Pooran as well, because this is another team that copped a bit of flack for how much they chased Pooran at the auction. And Pooran, last year was the same, like you're saying, like Markram. He didn't know where his next run was coming from. I think he had fewer runs than games in the previous season. They showed that faith in him, and he has come good in it. And how?
Mm-hmm. Incredible also that they were at the same franchise, weren't they? So they go into the auction and both of them come from the same franchise, the Punjab Kings, and have gone to SRH. And essentially in buying them, both of them, and Markram had shown glimpses last season, and also glimpses during the course of the period leading up to the auction, where he's shown that he can do that job. South Africa and Sri Lanka, South Africa at the World Cup in the UAE, where he bowled offies and he hit the ball out the ground quite successfully. I think that kind of clinches it for the auction to say he'd be one to have, and it'd be, and he can field it. He's taking those catches at slip. He can field anywhere in the deep. So he's a really good asset. And then Pooran, the fact that he keeps as well, and he's had a leadership role, whether it's with Punjab or with the West Indies. And essentially with Pooran, though, it's just talent you're buying, and you're hoping that, hold on, this guy can't go on getting 0 and 0 and 0 and 0. He'll come to us, and perhaps he'll come good for us. And as I say, in the middle overs, I think it was both of them as well last season, who, when the Punjab Kings were in situations where they should get over the line, I think it happened twice. They'd need like 3-4 runs to win or something, and they'd lose 4 wickets. And those guys would have been the guys who were trying to nurdle it about, and to try and get them over the line. They'd get into a super over, and then they'd lose that. And this time around, when Markram got, I think it was 50, I think it was against KKR, where right at the end, he just absolutely belted Cummins out the ground twice, 3 times. And when asked at the end, were you thinking about net run rate? He said, no, I wasn't thinking about net run rate. I tried last season when I was in the same sort of situation to nudge it and nurdle it to get us to the end, but I got out and we lost the game. And so I thought, this time, I don't want to let it get to that. And so he whacked it and he did it. And then he did it, I think, exactly the same way the next game. And he got runs, and he wasn't out both times. And I think it was both of them not out both times and kind of taking SRH over the line. So they're getting great benefits. Yeah, they're those games there against Kolkata and against Punjab. So great lessons that they're learning and able to transfer to this season and to situations, and actually being confident enough to rectify and actually win the game for the side. So brilliant stuff that's happening for them personally, but for SRH.
You can't take it to the last over every time, because there's somebody who resides in the last over. You've seen it on his passport. MS Dhoni lives in the last over. Try to finish your games in the 19th or the 18th, all right? Own that land if you can. Let's talk about Rahul Tripathi as well, Shaun, because him against Rashid Khan, that's going to be interesting, because, that's around when Tripathi comes in. Rashid comes into bowl, maybe the 6th, sometimes the 7th. But this is him against Rashid. No, sorry, this is just him. This is just him in total this tournament. I've been strong right from the beginning. Now, Hyderabad's won 5, but Pommie, I shouldn't change my tune, right? If you remember, we spoke on Cricbuzz Live about how I said Kane Williamson should be at 3 because he's got those runs there, and Rahul Tripathi should be unleashed as opener. They haven't done that. They've won, but I will still stick to my guns. But Rahul Tripathi has been great. Just, Polly, the way he's been batting, there's this sense of freedom, of abandon. He's not reckless, right? He's not reckless, and that's the fine line that he walks so well.
Yeah, I think that's the common trend now in the T20 format. I think the coaching staff behind the scenes are trying to create. You've got to play with positivity. You've got to take the odd risk, but if you can eliminate the percentage of the risk, so if you're trying to take like 20, 30%, 40% risks rather than the 90% risks, that's when you get away from being reckless, and then that's when you get away from. That's where you get to being consistent. And I think he's done it. I mean, of all the number 3s, if you had to pick an Indian side now to play in 2 days' time, I mean, he'd probably be the guy you'd put at number 3, the way he's gone about his business. He's just been fantastic. So they'll be hoping that continues. Rashid Khan, yeah, it's always interesting, that battle, isn't it? I mean, do the teams, often we've been talking about Bumrah this season, where it seems that teams are just trying to play out his 4 overs and not allow him to do any damage. Do the teams discuss Rashid Khan and talk about him? Listen, don't do anything silly against him. Just make sure you knock it around. Try and go 6, maybe 7 and over. And that might be the plan with him again today, and then try and target the other guys. But yeah, he's class wherever he goes. I mean, his economy rate's always sensational. And he's always got that potential of running through people. And the way they use him is very clever too. They always tend to bring him when a wicket falls. So, okay, now what do you do now? If you can't read him, you're in trouble. And that can sometimes make it bang, bang, 2 wickets in short succession. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Tripathi gets going and then Rashid Khan comes on, then there might be a nice battle.
Well, they're the only team who've only tried one person at number 3. That's Rahul Tripathi. And he's getting the job done.
Everybody. He's doing the 3-party well.
That's right. He's doing the 3-party really well. Let's not talk about India number 4 because that's called the 4. No, forget it. But we're talking about number 3. He's doing really well with that. And all other teams have tried multiple options there. And here I am sitting, trying to start a petition for Hyderabad trying another person at 3 as well. Oh, that's horrible. I should stop, but I won't. But just one question, Pommie, though. Will Hyderabad kind of look at this and say, all right, listen, we've not batted first, right? We've not batted first in 1. This is a good opportunity for us. If we need to make a mistake, let's not stress ourselves out. This is a good time to make that mistake and to correct whatever we have to do. This is the time to do it because we are near the top of the table.
Look, I don't think any team who goes into a game thinking they'll get their strategy wrong. I think you'll back whatever strategy you have. And as Shaun speaks about in terms of percentages and the cutting out of risks, and if you are going to take risks, take the necessary risks and the correct risks. I think that's particularly important. In talking about how they set up and the way they'll go, a general assessment as happens every time is what they'll make. They'll go out as hard as they feel they need to, as hard as they feel in the conditions they must. Someone like Tripathi, I don't think it matters to him too much. He'll try, rather than sort of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 way in terms of, let's see what I can get. I think he'll do the 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 way because he's very aggressive and generally looks to try and whack everything. And unless the conditions totally make sure that he can't, then he won't. So I don't think that's going to change. They're going to play that way. And the fact that they have a deeper batting order, I think also means that they can aim that little bit higher. But the risks taken should be correct risks. What they don't want is to go into their shell and bat way too slowly and not utilize their resources and then kind of end up, middling and losing and then not really knowing much about what their order is, and what their order is about. So they've got to stretch themselves, but kind of do it calculatedly.
Yeah, I've got a question. Yeah. Can I ask something too? Just with Pommie being on the ground, I think, when you're as a team, you're thinking, let me qualify first. Let's get into the playoffs. And then you want to have your team prepared for what you might face in those playoffs. So you might have to bat first in a win-all game. But do you think the trend's going to change a little bit as the games go on? It's just the 4 venues being used. Surfaces-wise, when you go out into the ground, are they starting to look a little bit worn? Is it starting to look like it might be a massive advantage by the back end of the tournament to actually bat first because the wickets are going to crumble?
So in the afternoon, even before we've got to this point, every one of us have walked out and said, why do guys give away even the good surfaces? Because you can batter side out the game. And we understand why they're thinking that way, because initially it was about dew. But when we've seen that there isn't dew, many a time we're sitting and we're going, do you know what? Bat first. Because when you put sides under pressure and there's no dew, it's better. It just seems better that way. So I think essentially it's still going to be about preference because the change is not going to be that great in as far as the surface is concerned from batting first to batting second. I think it's just a case of scoreboard pressure and how many, whichever side's bats first, is able to put on the board in terms of trying to put pressure on their opposition and how willing they are to bat through and kind of rise to a crescendo and then whack it and get to 180, 200 and so forth. Sometimes teams go out too hard at the start, give their opposition the chance, and they get blown out up top. And then they kind of take what they can get as they go along and end up losing anyway. So, yeah, I don't think the toss is that big an issue. And I don't think batting first is a bad call. I think it's a decent call.
Well, there is this Wankhede pitch, which pretty much like everything else in Mumbai, including me, is a little two-faced. It's given us 149 in the first innings in the first 4 matches. And now it's risen to 186 in the last 5 matches. So it really, that's really quite a delta. It's quite a range there. And I don't know if we're going to try and guess the score for Hyderabad batting first today, which is we've barely seen them. We don't know what to say. We don't know with Wankhede what's going on. We don't know what Hyderabad what's going on. So this will be a very interesting guessing game. Where do you sit on it, Mr. Pollock? What's your guess?
I'm going to go 177.
177. Playing it safe. He is. Yes. Pommie does not approve of playing it safe. Come on the edge. Come on.
Whoa, SRH. Okay, it's fine for 189.
189. All right, great. So I'm gonna go lower because I feel the Gujarat bowlers will get it going today. So I'll go 165.
Oof.
Yeah. Low ball in it. Come on. All right. We've got a joy factor question before we wrap up for all you geeks. Yeah. All you super whizzes. All you cricket brains. Oh, geez. Look at the number of words in that question. All right. Here goes. A franchise coach and captain have both achieved something in ODI cricket that has been achieved by only 14 other male cricketers. Name both cricketers and the achievement.
14.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
I have no idea. First of all, I think I want to give Joy some commas on his birthday because this very long sentences. If you know the answer, hashtag Cricbuzz Live, hashtag Joy Factor. Send us your answers on Twitter. And of course, they will get to us if they are sitting in an electric car. You know what I mean? If you know, you know, yeah? All right, so send us your answers. We're going to see you at the end of the 10th over, Cricbuzz Combox. That's when we come here for a little update. Hyderabad, of course, being put into bat first by Hardik Pandya, the Gujarat captain. Big thank you to Shaun Pollock and Pommie Mbangwa. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Big thank you to all of you. You were watching Cricbuzz Live. I'm Gaurav Kapur. We'll see you in a bit.